Welcome to HDTV. You're now rocking with your boy. I wanted to touch on this story a little more. I did a little bit of it. I kind of was doing it yesterday on my live. Go check that StreamYard out. HD News and Patrick Beverly comments. Um, Mother of St. Pete man shot by police wants transparent investigation. The sheriff's office in the city of St. Petersburg promised the case is being fully investigated. A spokesperson representing the family of Dominique Harris, the 20-year-old man who was killed in the shootout with police, is raising concerns along with members of the African People's Socialist Party. They held a news conference this morning with a number of demands and grievances. We want to demand transparency and accountability, and from the beginning that has been lost, said NAACP member Corey Givens Jr., who identified himself as a spokesperson for the mother of Dominique Harris. Both the city of St. Pete and the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office promised just that during separate news conferences on Thursday. In fact, the Sheriff's Office investigating the St. Pete Police Department shooting is a direct result of protest and what the community has been asking for. The use of deadly force task force was formed so we can show that we are being transparent and we're accountable to the citizens of St. Petersburg, says St. Petersburg Police Chief Anthony Holloway. Thursday, Sheriff Bob Gualtieri laid out in detail what investigators know about what happened. He came right out and disclosed officers fired 50 times, hitting Harris with 38 rounds. That use of force was one of the biggest complaints from the family of Harris and other concerned about how all this went down. It was like a war zone or Grand Theft Auto, said Givens. I don't care what he done. It didn't constitute him being murdered the way he was. The sheriff explained Harris was surrounded by officers when he pointed a gun out of the car window and shot a 49-year-old undercover detective twice in the midsection. The sheriff says Harris fired at least 4 times as St. Pete police returned fire. The officers did exactly as they should have done and what they've trained to do, said Gualtieri, that is to neutralize the threat and to keep shooting until the threat stops. The next concern why investigators won't make the names of the officers involved public. Release their names, release their rap sheets. I want to know what they've done, said Achille Anai of the African People's Socialist Party. The sheriff did provide the officers' age, length of service, any disciplinary issues over the past 5 years, and if any of the officers had been involved had been involved in past shootings. He also released the name of one of the officers involved, a uniformed street cop, but explained the other officers are part of an undercover unit, and for that reason their names had to be withheld. They remain in an undercover capacity and it puts them in jeopardy. It puts them potentially in harm's way, said Sheriff Gualtieri. Finally, critics say a lot of the questions could be addressed if officers simply wore body cameras. If we had a body camera on the officers that were here that day, there would be no question about what happened, what transpired that day, because accountability would be served on both parts. Both on the people and the police who are sworn to serve and protect the people in this community, said Givens. The St. Petersburg Police Department says they were already in the process of rolling out their body camera program before this event happened. The first officers will be getting training next week, and by early next year, every uniformed officer in St. Pete will be equipped with the body camera. That may not help in this case, but investigators say there is video captured by the nearby store's security cameras. We're told that video will not be released anytime before next week. Of course it's not. And I talked about this on the live early. Shout out to my brother Beans, aka my boy Germ, aka Beans. That brother there, man, has always been an influential person in my life. We love going back and forth about sports, especially he loves LeBrownies and I don't like LeBrownies, but I'm getting away from the topic at hand. Basically, let's see. I wanna pull this up. Dominique Smith, I said it was a female because of the name, but no, I messed up a little bit. I was kind of tired, guys, in that live yesterday. I wasn't about to do it, but you got to do it. Do what you have to do. Um, basically, hold on. Was it Dominique Smith or was it Harris? Yeah, Dominique Harris. Excuse me. Of Dominique Harris. Okay. Yeah, it's Dominique Harris. Basically Dominique. It says that he was a child abuse suspect killed in a confrontation. They said the officer was shot and wounded. He was trying to capture a man wanted on child abuse charges. Basically, he was up for child abuse charges. In a confrontation that unfolded outside the grocery store. The already been the scene of two other fatal shootings this year. Dominique Harris, who was 20, was killed in an ensuing gun battle. That's what Bob Gualtieri said, like I just read in that report. He was trying to ram a car past a blockade of police vehicles. The sheriff said when he struck a semi-automatic pistol, when he stuck a semi-automatic pistol outside the driver's side window and fired several times at an officer just 2 to 3 feet away from him. The officer was struck in the lower torso. I would almost call it point blank range. Gualtieri said he is very fortunate, and we're all very fortunate that it wasn't worse, that he wasn't shot in a more vulnerable location. A group of officers fired more than a dozen times in response. The sheriff said striking Harris multiple times. And they said a video was posted on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, go check that out. The paramedics treated Harris at the scene, but he died in the hospital later. The incident took place 4:17 p.m., but the sheriff did not say when Harris was pronounced dead. So the wounded officer was pulled to safety by another officer. He underwent surgery at Bayfront Health St. Petersburg Hospital and was in stable condition. The officer asked that his name not be released until all of his family members had been told of his injury. Another officer injured her knee and may have suffered a concussion. She was treated at the hospital, later released. Harris' family and friends spent 3 hours waiting outside Bayfront, waiting for his condition. And the Wednesday shootout was the latest incident of Okay, hold on. This is important too. They had not been told when Gualtieri announced the news after 8 p.m. Then news of his death spread through the crowd. It was greeted by desperate wails, people collapsing into sobs on the ground and others embracing while they wept. Wednesday's shootout was the latest incident of gun violence that has marred the city in recent weeks. In November, there were 7 shooting incidents that left 3 people dead and injured 7. The city council member Deborah Figg Sanders, who visited the scene soon after the shooting, noted that the violence comes as the community is already dealing with the loss of jobs and income in the wake of the deadly coronavirus pandemic. Right now, our community is facing more despair than we ever have, she said. Harris has been wanted on the charge of child abuse since October, Gualtieri said. He's accused of body slamming a 15-year-old at a park. A squad of plainclothes St. Petersburg detectives police tracked him to the 18th Avenue South area on Wednesday. He parked in front of the Food Max grocery store at 1400 18th Ave South. His brother went inside. The detectives called in uniform officer to approach Harris. They blocked his car and questioned him. The sheriff said Harris produced identification that confirmed his identity, but he wouldn't get out of the car. He rolled the window up on the car and refused their commands to get out, Gualtieri said. The officers tried to break one of the car's windows. Harris put his car in reverse and rammed the cruiser parked behind him. The sheriff said then accelerated forward and struck a concrete pole in the parking lot as he attempted what Gualtieri called the 3-point turn to escape. The plainclothes detective started driving in to help. Harris rammed another police vehicle, and that officer accelerated forward to keep him pinned in. 2 police vehicles tried to box in Harris on the driver and passenger sides. The officer on Harris' driver's side got out of his car, the sheriff said, and was shot by Harris. The Facebook video shows several plainclothes officers shooting at a vehicle that appears to be blocked in by other vehicles. One officer can be seen firing while standing on top of the hood of a black pickup. Guiltieri said 5 to 6 officers fired their weapon during the incident. Their names were not released. That car looked like Swiss cheese. Latanya Lemon, 51, who lives on 14th Street South, told the Times after the shooting is being investigated by the sheriff and the Pinellas County Use of Deadly Force Investigative Task Force, which was formed this summer by Pinellas agencies to investigate the use of deadly force by officers. In the past, law enforcement agencies investigated their own officers. The officers have likely been placed on administrative leave, which is routine in police shootings. St. Petersburg Police Chief Anthony Holloway did not address the media after Wednesday's shooting or the sheriff's news conference. Mayor Rick Kreisman briefly visited the wounded officer at the hospital. His thoughts and his prayers today are with the officer and his family, said mayoral spokesman Ben Kirby. Before they learned of Harris' death, family and friends gathered at a hospital entrance away from the officers who had come to visit the wounded officer. Some cried and leaned on each other for support. They waited silently with their hands to mouth outside the emergency room. Patricia Reynolds said she was waiting to find out what happened to Harris, her grandson, but she wasn't allowed in the hospital. She said he had just left their home in her car. Then she got a call saying he was in the hospital. All I know is my car is shot up, she said. Gerald Smith, 38, said he raised Harris since his birth. He called him a quiet kid. He said the video of the shooting was already being shared across the community while they waited outside the hospital. He complained that no one was talking about what happened to Harris. People just don't know how often this happens, he said. An officer got shot. That's all they have to say. The video appears to have been filmed from inside the Food Max. Bystanders took shelter inside the store during the shootout. There were kids in the store and everything, said Brittany Campbell, 22, who lives a few houses from the shooting scene. They're going to traumatize a kid who probably won't even want to go to school tomorrow. They'll probably be scared to go back in the store. The latest shooting comes after a gruesome month for gun violence in St. Petersburg, Florida. In November, there were 7 shooting incidents that left 3 people dead and injured 7. The Food Max parking lot there has been the site of 2 fatal shootings. A September 19th shooting left 38-year-old Bernard Nixon dead and another man critically hurt. More recently, on November 14th, 26-year-old Dantases Ramsey was fatally shot in the parking lot of a grocery store. Police made arrests in both shootings. The day after Ramsey was killed, another shooting took place just a few blocks away from the Food Max at a plaza on 16th Street South. That has become a site for late-night parties. Arnesia Milton, a 23-year-old mother of 2, was killed in that shooting. The recent gun violence in the city spurred City Council member Lisa Wheeler Bowman to organize an Enough is Enough rally on Saturday to address the recent issues facing the community. It's scheduled to start at 12 p.m. at the corner of 34th Street South and 18th Avenue South, just a short distance from the shooting scene. Harris was arrested twice in 2019 on charges of burglary and fleeing and eluding an officer. According to records, in October 2019 incident, the arrest report said he fled when a St. Petersburg officer tried to pull him over. Harris sped away in his grandmother's car, drove through stop signs, then tried to run away before a police dog captured him. He told an officer that he knew his license had been suspended and feared an arrest would violate his probation. The report said in December 2019 he pleaded guilty to the charge and was sentenced as a youthful offender. After his news conference, Gualtieri went to the hospital to speak to Harris' family. State Senator Darrell Rosen spoke to the family before they left the hospital. "What do you say to a mom who loses a boy except I'm sorry," he said. So basically, from reading the situation, the boy had priors, and this happens in St. Petersburg since I was a kid, man. St. Pete has always been known to have this happen all the time because you got to think about it. There's nothing to do in St. Pete, man. St. Pete is nothing but an old folks retirement place. If you're old or you have a family, it's a great place to retire at. If you have a lot of money, it's a great place to live at. But all St. Pete is hood. It's always been hood. It's always been that way Police have always done this. St. Pete isn't the first city and it won't be the last. All of these cities basically have cops who use excessive force. Now, he shot at a police officer and he was wanted for slamming a 15-year-old, and he's had priors. So police use what they did, but to me, police, they just kept shooting, 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 and it's like, man, I done seen a lot of whites who have been in trouble in St. Pete and Pinellas Park area. They've shot at cops, sometimes injured a cop, and they're still able to walk home the next day or at least be alive to stand trial. And this has always been St. Pete's problem in all other cities with blacks or minorities being people who live there. Police have always had this issue is body cameras. They don't have no body cameras or anything. And that is the issue. Because what the body camera does, see what these police don't understand, the body camera shows if you're doing your job correctly. If you're doing your job correctly, then I can't be upset what happens afterwards. But for you to kill and shoot down this guy, which I agree, he shot at the police. He handled the situation wrong. Dominic Harris should not get a pass. He's done this multiple times. And like I said, where's the parents? Like Who Did It says all the time. A lot of black communities don't have the father around. And this is when the father needs to be around. And St. Pete is really big on this. It's just like any other city with a lot of black men and women living there. A lot of the black men have these babies all spread around the city. The women they're not better. They're sleeping with the partner or the guy down the street, and they're having all these kids, but we're not taking care of the kids. We think it's okay to be disrespectful to law enforcement or to do what the hell we want to do. We're just always going to be looked at as wrong, and we always got a cape for the black guy. No, the black guy in this situation was wrong. Dominic Harris was wrong, but as the police handled it wrong. They weren't wrong for trying to handle it the way they did, but they were wrong for the excessive shooting. You shot up the vehicle in a place where there's kids who are there. There's innocent bystanders. And this is what's been wrong with the police. The police have had too much power given to them, and they're always looking after each other because it's the good old boy club. It's the pink folk club. But Dominic Harris is wrong. I don't agree with how he handled the situation. And to me, he shot a police officer. He could have killed the police officer. We don't know what happened because with a body camera, we could have seen if the police officer handled the approach to the vehicle like he was supposed to. To me, you should have ran up, you should have came up to the vehicle with more than one person. You should have had at least 4 or 5 cops come onto the person and let him know, look, you're being arrested. And if he would have attempted to try to do what he do, shoot out the tires. You guys could have shot the tires out. You guys could have did that and caused the car to flip or something instead of shooting 30, 48 times into the damn vehicle. Like, what is the thought process of the police officers? The police officers don't have a thought process. They think everything is solved by killing somebody. Now, was the police officer who was shot? I'm sorry for all that happening, but you guys should have handled your approach a lot better. You should have gone up there. You should have talked to the kid first. You should have made the kid not feel like he was nervous. You got to understand, black people and police don't get along. It's oil and water. But to go excessively to shoot how you did was very wrong. And the police aren't going to put their names out there, people. Come on, they're the police. The police are the most protected group of gangsters. They're nothing but a gang. The police is nothing but a gang all across America, all across the world. Police all have this superiority complex where they have to handle every situation they feel like by violence or by force. When you can handle it without force, you can actually talk to somebody, you can actually handle the situation. To me, you should have added when the guy didn't want to get out the vehicle. Okay, that's when you should have had your police. That's when you should have backed up a little bit and you should have handled it a different way. You could have shot the tires out. You could have did other things. But St. Petersburg has always been like this since I was a kid, even before I was born, or before we moved to St. Petersburg. Because I'm not born there; I was raised there. It's always been poverty stricken, and then it's always been very, you know, very very poorish in areas. And you have a lot of black men, especially in the 90s, where they weren't around raising the kid. And some were around, but they didn't pay attention to the kid. They didn't give them any jewels to be able to sustain going into the next era, or to raise their family, or to handle situations. But again, I feel sorry for the family for losing Dominique Harris. But Dominique Harris, he was a criminal, but he didn't deserve to get shot up like he did, even though he did shoot a police officer. And you got to understand, you're black. If you shoot a police officer and you're black, you're going to get shot down. You're going to get murdered. You're going to get shot up full of holes, and that's just the way it goes. They're trying to put out a body camera now because they're getting backlash. That's the only reason why they're doing it. And to me, this was a terrible situation, how it was handled and how it was approached, or what was put out. To me, Dominique Harris didn't handle it correctly. To me, he was wrong in the whole situation. This whole situation could have been prevented if he just got out the car. And sometimes us as black men and black women, sometimes we just got to shut the hell up and just abide by the rules. But if we still get shot, which a lot of other blacks have been shot and handled wrong when they were being approached by the police or about to be arrested, I understand how they could react. But this situation, to me, this just shows more corruption of St. Pete. The enough is enough. That's a good idea. I think it happened this past Saturday that just passed. I think that's a great thing to start. But St. Pete has always been like this. And black people have to understand we have to start policing ourselves. We have to start showing leadership in our neighborhoods. We have to start showing support to the kids, building them up, and showing them how to do things the right way, instead of letting them be led by these rappers like the baby and all of these rappers and all of these fake role models that we want for our kids, who really aren't role models. And it's the truth. It's the truth. It's honesty. We have to look at it from a different standpoint, that we need to step up as black people. We need to stop depending on the white folks and the police. We have to get ourselves straight. Until we get ourselves straight, this is going to continue happening. We're going to have another Dominique Harris, and it is what it is. He won't be the last one. They're continuously killing black men and black women, and we just have to comply. When you're stuck like that, comply with the law. Take your L, move on to see another day. Now, if he would have got shot after he got out the car, then I would have said, hey, all of it on the police. But in this situation, Dominique Harris handled it wrong. And I can't really put it all on him, because probably the absence of a father and mother. I think he probably was raised by his grandmother, like a lot of these children are. And grandma old, she can't handle these kids. These kids they're too young, too vigorous, too much energy. You need the mother and father around. So to me, I'm very disappointed in this whole case, this whole situation. My city continues to look bad for the wrong reasons. That's the only time they love to talk about St. Pete, is when it's killings or it's something to do with the hood and all that stuff. We need to grow up out of that. We need to start taking care of these kids. I don't live there no more, but it's still there with me wherever I go. And I just pray for the family, and I pray they do well. And I just hope they continue getting better through this. And this is very saddening. I wanted to do this video justice by getting some more information on it before talking about it, because I don't like to jump off the bridge when I don't have all the information or the tools to help me get through the video and the content. So Thank you for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, share this. Hit the notification bell to select all to receive upcoming notifications. And if you want to donate to the page, you can cash at me at the word welcome, the number 2, and an HDII TV. Thank you for listening, and we're out. Live boy.